Welcome back, everybody. You're watching This Week in America online, thisweekinamerica.us. It's an inspiring story of survival, overcoming tragedies, taking one day at a time. Living a Second Chance, a story of survival by Fredrick Sipe is the story of the author, a survivor of a terrible accident that left him paralyzed from the neck down and his fiancée dead. A months-long coma, numerous surgeries, and much physical therapy. Through his work, pain, and humiliation, he fought for a second chance at life. Living a Second Chance, a story of survival, is the motivational story of Fredrick Sipe, our guest on today's This Week in America. Fredrick, welcome to the program. It's great to have you with us.
Hello, thank you.
It is our pleasure to have you here, and this is such an inspirational book. So many people, after going through what you went through, would figure there's just no reason to continue. You are continuing living an inspirational life for other people. Let's go back just a few minutes on your childhood. I know that you were born in 1976. Bubba was your nickname in growing up, and you moved at a young age, but that relationship, that bond with your mother really started early in your life, didn't it, and continued?
Oh, yeah. She's my rock.
Yeah, she was there when times really got difficult, and moving and living in different places, ending up in Pennsylvania. She was the constant. Let's go to, you're 16 years old, a typical youth growing up. 16, you dropped out of school at the time, and you took a job at the vegetable factory. Talk about life at that time, because you met the love of your life during that period.
Yeah, before I started my job, I lived in the city, and I just got into fights every day, and it was just hard to go on. So I finally quit school and got a job, helped out with the bills and stuff like that. And yes, I did meet my girlfriend, fiance there.
And she had a 2-year-old son. Talk about that relationship, and you talk about it very honestly in your book, Living a Second Chance, where her family wasn't real excited that the two of you were getting together, were they?
No, they weren't.
Not at all.
So it took a couple years, even before I met her son. And then I spent a lot of time on the weekends with him. He's a good kid.
Yeah, and you talk about that relationship that you had that opened up and became a very strong relationship. Fredrick Sipe, our guest on the program, he's the author of the book Living a Second Chance, a story of survival. The book is available at Book Venture. You'll find it online, of course. You can click on directly by going to our website, thisweekinamerica.us. As you're with Tasha, you have a son, and talk about that experience. And that really changed your life, didn't it? Suddenly you're a grown-up when you have a son.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, it made me realize to love life more. And it made me happy.
Yeah, you got a better job. You increased that to take care of the family. And then there's a second child, a daughter that comes along. Talk about that experience, because now you've got the typical American family. You've got the two children, a boy and a girl.
Yeah, Chelsea. She was my girl. We were real close.
And we'll talk about the children as we go through this discussion. And Fredrick talks about them very openly and honestly in his book, Living a Second Chance, a story of survival. Let's go to that fateful day where the world just fell apart for you, that 21st birthday celebration. Talk about what happened that night.
Well, our days were 2 days apart. So we were out celebrating, and on the way home it started raining, and we got rained off the road. That's the last I remember.
And then in the hospital, nobody was talking about Tasha, and you knew because nobody was bringing it up that it was not good news. And then you finally found out that she had lost her life in that accident. You've You're dealing with that, and you're dealing with the fact that you have some really serious injuries. Talk about mentally what you went through during that period.
Well, I started waking up slowly. And what I did, I dreamed a lot in my coma. And I could just sense something was wrong. And no one talked about her, so I knew.
The book we're talking about is Living a Second Chance, A Story of Survival. Fredrick Sipe, our guest on the program. You mentioned in the book, this is still difficult for you to actually talk about, but you felt that you needed to share your message to inspire other people, and the book was the perfect way to do that. When you wrote the book, what was that experience like? Because you say very honestly, this is something you have to address. You chose to do it in the book rather than talk about it with a lot of people.
Right. And my daughter, she wrote it for me. I told her, we sat there together and wrote it. But also, I wanted to help someone else in my situation. Because I had no one my age and been through what I had been.
Yeah, you basically, this is a whole new experience, a tragic experience for you that you have to figure out. Things were so bad that what they didn't think that you'd ever be able to breathe on your own again, they weren't even sure you were able to eat on your own. And you basically had to learn how to eat and to swallow again. It's interesting you talk about, you dreamed about the meal, the meal you really wanted.
Yeah.
Talk about that, because you finally got that when you were able to chew and to swallow.
Oh yeah, my Big Mac, French fries, and a vanilla milkshake.
Never tasted so good, and what's so
Oh
amazing
yeah.
is they didn't think that you'd be able to ever do that again.
Yeah.
You talk about the recovery and mentally, physically, what you went through. Just getting into a wheelchair was a major accomplishment for you, wasn't it?
Oh yeah. Yes, it was. And very painful. As they were getting me up in what they call a sling. I mean, just bending, that was real painful. But I overcame it and do good now.
Yeah, well, and you talk about being able to go home, and you were able to visit the week before
Oh yeah.
Christmas, and an interesting your observation during that period. And during all of this, the court case is coming up. We forget that you were in this accident. Talk about the court and the realization that they were in the process of charging you with a crime.
Oh yes, and as I was able to sit up in the chair, I just got weaned off the ventilator. I still had a trach in my neck, and I had to go to court, which was the most embarrassing day of my life.
Yeah, how did you deal with that? I mean, you were there, and all of this you're dealing with, including the loss of Tasha, and then you've got someone saying you're responsible and we're going to charge you. That would have to. Well, you described it the worst day of your life. I can certainly understand that.
Oh yeah. Well, what had happened, I ended up getting charged with vehicular manslaughter. And if I would ever walk again, they said I'd get 5 to 10 years.
That's amazing, and they had no evidence of being off the
None.
road that night. I mean, it wasn't like there were witnesses around, and that had to
No.
be just one of the many obstacles that Fredrick had to go through, and he documents all of those in the book Living a Second Chance, A Story of Survival. Let's talk about the time when you go to a nursing home, and you have this realization at one point that even though I'm paralyzed, I still think I can live with this disability. I got some life to live. Talk about mentally how you arrived at that point where, I can live with this. I don't want to, but I can live with this.
Well, what I didn't want to live with it. Honestly, I didn't. Till my son came up to me and said, "Dad, I need you."
That is motivation. That gives you the motivation that, okay, I am going to figure out how I'm going to get through this. I know it's very difficult, Fredrick, to talk about this, which is why he chose to write the book. And we're doing this Fredrick is doing this to try to get the message out to other people that if you go through disability, if you go through issues such as he's gone through, there is still life that you need to live, and people that love you and you love them. During all of this, and you talk in the book about the insurance, and eventually that runs out. And United Cerebral Palsy was there and offered a great deal of assistance. On
Oh,
top of
yeah.
everything else you got to worry about, it's like, how am I going to pay for all of this? What was that like trying to get well, knowing the back of your mind that somebody's standing there with a bill and they want money?
Well, it was hard. I was in a nursing home for a year before my mother and family found a house we could move into that was, compatible for me. And it was hard, but finally in 2 years, we finally got on HUD, and they helped me pay the rent and a little bit of money we had. It was hard, but we made it.
And again, that's a message for other people that it may be difficult. There are resources out there, and in this case, they came in and really helped out. This stay at the hospital, you end up with bed sores several times, pneumonia. Actually, ended up in a lawsuit with the hospital. On top of everything else, you've got some obvious neglect at the hospital.
Oh, yeah, that was after I came home. I ended up catching pneumonia, and I went in the hospital, and I'm supposed to be on a certain bed that keeps moving, and they put me on a regular mattress and they moved me proper. I got sore.
Yeah, on top of everything else, you have to deal with that, and were able to negotiate a settlement with the hospital after going through that. You mentioned something in the book that's fascinating, as well as I think the hospitals and other medical treatment facilities are understaffed. You
Oh,
certainly were
yeah.
there and saw that. Talk about that, because you've got some medical people and a whole lot of patients they have to take care of, don't they?
Yes, they do. They one person they get when I was in nursing home, one person had to take up to 6, 7 patients a day, and they had no way of doing that. And a lot of people are getting neglected.
The book is Living a Second Chance, a story of survival by Fredrick Sipe. As you're dealing with all of this and attempting to get your life back together, there's an accident involving your son that has long-term consequences.
Yeah.
Talk about that accident and the problems that came up after that.
Whew. One day I was in the room getting my bath. My mom was helping, and my sister came running in. I thought my son was upstairs, but he snuck out and he had a friend's bicycle, and he went out in the traffic and got hit good. I mean, pretty bad.
And that led to long-term problems. He was on medication, and I know this is difficult to talk about, but
Oh, yeah.
it ended up with your son losing your life, and one of your missions in life, one of your purposes, is to try to encourage all of us to figure out ways to deal with addiction, because you can get addicted to medication, and that you can really go down the wrong path quickly, can't you?
Yes. Well, my son he was 8 when the accident happened. And over the years, he was on a lot of different medication. And by the time he was 21, he got hooked on heroin. And that's what took his life.
That came about after Fredrick had the book initially published. That's in one of the bonus chapters in the book, where once again he's talking about a story of survival and getting through some very difficult times. And we mentioned your daughter, and instrumental in writing this book, Living a Second Chance. Talk about the situation there, because you saw she was having some problems and actually did an intervention to try to turn things around for her.
Oh, I tried a lot of different things. Yeah, she, unfortunately, just July, she overdosed and passed away.
And that, again, one of the strong messages in the book is, with this medication and addiction out there, we need as a society to do something so this doesn't happen. One of the chapters in the book, you basically talk about life goes on. You started going out and continuing with life. Talk about where you are today, because you do have a second chance. You are living a second chance. Talk about life going on and being able to put everything in perspective and to keep going and find meaning in your life with all that you've been through.
Well, I'm trying. But like I said, I just lost my daughter to heroin. And now my mom, she got stage 4 cancer. So,
And I talked about that relationship that you had, and your mom was your rock in getting you through some very difficult times in your life. But it's a book that's a very honest account of Fredrick's life and overcoming and getting through different obstacles. You say in the book, if you take nothing else away from this book, remember this: even if someone becomes paralyzed in an accident or is born with a disability, they can still live a good life. Talk about that, because you've been able to get through all of this. You continue to go forward and take advantage of that second life.
yes, I do. I try to be strong every day. I mean, life does throw a lot of things at you. But yeah, you do just gotta keep going on.
The book is so important to people, and again, I keep saying inspiration and motivation because of Fredrick and what he has gone through and continues to go through in his life, and to take advantage of that second opportunity. Basically, I guess keep fighting is if you had to choose a couple of words to keep people going. And you don't necessarily even have to have a serious illness. Sometimes just emotionally we get caught up
Right.
in what life throws at us, and keep fighting. Those seems to be two words that you live with.
Or even be hooked on drugs. Anything.
Keep fighting. That's what
Yep.
words from Fredrick that we all need to keep in mind as we
Also,
go through this.
also no shame. Don't be ashamed of yourself.
Well, and I mentioned in the beginning, through hard work, pain, and humiliation, you suffered all of that. You fought for a second chance at life, and you got it. So even though, and you talk about getting dragged into the court situation was a very humiliating and difficult time for you, but you were able to get through it. I'm thinking, if you can get through all that, I mean, here's a gentleman that was told you're probably never going to be able to breathe on your own again, and don't even think about eating on your own. And you're able to do that, and you have a second chance, and you're taking advantage of it.
Right, I feel like I'm on probably my fourth.
Yeah, I say a second
Yeah.
chance. It may even be more than that, but you've really done something commendable by telling your story and being able to motivate other people. The book is called Living a Second Chance, A Story of Survival. Our guest is Fredrick Sipe, and if you're Googling that to get the book, it's Fredrick, Fredrick. Sipe is Sipe. You'll find the book at Book Venture, some of the other book outlets, Amazon, of course. You can link on directly by going to our website, thisweekinamerica.us. Fredrick, I know this was difficult going back and reliving some of those moments of your life, and I know that you felt it was necessary to do that, to get the message out there to help other people. Very courageous, and I appreciate that. Thank you for being with us on the program today.
Another thing, I got my grandson to help me go through life.
Well, you keep looking for things, don't you, that will give you a reason to keep going,
Oh,
and
yeah.
the grandson will do that. That's got to be a joy in your life to have him
yeah.
with you.
Yep, I love him.
Look for something like that in your life that will get you through the difficult times. Living a Second Chance, Fredrick Sipe. Fredrick, once again, thank you for being with us on the program.
And thank you.
You're welcome.
And thanks, everybody.
And information on Fredrick you'll find at our website, thisweekinamerica.us, or the book, of course, available, Book Venture at Amazon, An Amazing Story. We're back on today's program after these messages.